Okay, let's talk about grains for a second. Salt comes with an interface to derive information about the underlying system. This is called the grains interface because it presents salt with grains of information. Grains are collected for the operating system, domain name, IP address, a lot of different things. But to see what grains it actually is collecting, we can do a salt star grains.ls. Well, it's collecting all this information about our minions. This is kind of like gather facts, I guess, on Ansible. Let's do grains.items and actually give us the information instead of doing this. So grains.ls just shows us what fields it collects, but this one actually shows us the value of those fields. Well, what can I do with that? I think mostly grains would be useful for targeting. Like we saw on a slide a few minutes ago that we had something like this. So this says, go ahead and run the test.ping module on every minion who has a matching grain for OS equal to Ubuntu. And both of those do. Alternatively, I could say, well, what if I want to target those that have a ZMQ version, or maybe, it's too hard for me to type, ZFS support of false. Oops, false. No minions match the target. Because I did a dash support. Great. So underscore. So both of those have ZFS support, whatever that is. So we can target based on these more fine-grained attributes of the minions. So that could be useful. And we might be able to use grains more customized as well. The last thing I was going to say about grains are you can create custom grains. However, you have to log into each minion and go to like Etsy minion directory and put your custom grains in there. So, but one thing you should be able to see is these are variables. These are things that I could script against, program against, target against, that sort of thing. But there's a better way to do variables. And I think, well, it's more popular, I guess, to do what they call pillars. So we're going to talk about that. Okay, so a pillar is an interface for Salt designed to offer global values or variables that can be distributed to minions. Similar to grains, but we configure them on the server rather than on the minions themselves. And there's a ton of information on this website about pillars and how to use pillars and that sort of thing. So I'm going to give you the quick overview, which is we go to the master, Salt master, and we have to create a directory srv pillar. So, cd, you have to create that directory. We're going to create a top file there as well again. So here's my top file. It's going to look very similar to the top file in our Salt directory as well. Basically, we tell it the name, as you can see here, on all of my minions, I want to apply the pillar files called core. Okay, so if I cat out core, basically this is going to say, hey, I want you to create all these variables. So I want to have these users, Larry, Curly, Mo, and Sally available. This is a list. And then maybe I'll create some other variable with the value 66. I'll create some other variable. And then we can always apply the command salt star pillar.items, which would say show me all the items that are available. So salt star pillar.items, show me all of the pillar variables that are available on all my hosts. And it would go read that top file and do it. Anyway, so these are all the variables that are available over on those hosts. Okay, so why do we care? What possible value could that have for us? Well, now I'm going to use those variables. I'm going to use those pillar variables that I've created back in srv salt here, because this is where my salt, but it's type salt. I created this make users file, state file, and you can see now I can use and it's called Jinja language, I guess, a scripting language. And this is my for loop. Hey, loop through all of my Pillar users, and hey, then we can just use our user module to create users. So I'm going to create the user Larry, and we're going to do user.present. The user curly user.present, user mo user.present. So loop through each of those values that we just saw right here, Larry, curly, mo, and Sally, and do a user.present on each one of them. So awesome. So then I could go to my top file again, and I'm going to say, on the first salt, I'm going to do, and I forgot what I called it, make users state. And then we'll do a salt star state.apply if I was doing it to everything, or let's just do salt one state.apply, and it should go, and it did that. It said Larry, curly, mo user.present. We did it. And I can't remember if I had already ran that before or not, but that's how a pillar variable might be useful to us. The other thing that might be useful is this command where, and I guess that's not exactly right, but because we need to change this, and copying and pasting always shows the wrong quotes, but we can say, hey, if I run that make users state, let's just see show me what's going to happen. Don't actually do it, but show me what's going to happen. So if I were to run it on all these, show me what would happen. So that could be useful in debugging. Won't actually execute it. And then maybe this might be useful if you get any other errors. So that's giving you some information for how to use, we talked about how to use salt modules, how to use state files, and how to use pillar. So that should get you on your way.